You can raise your hand when it's appropriate time. Here also, we are going to follow a pretty strict protocol for public comment. So we already have 9 people signed up. Yeah, this facility closed at 7 p.m. and we meet run until 7:30, so they have extended a little bit to us on that basis. So we'd not like to go over too much time. We will have a 3-minute limit on public comment. So our agenda is going to be Morgan Rogers, followed by a presentation by the County Parks and Recreation on the current efforts of dredging and berm repair. And we're going to have a real brief presentation by Veolia on some new activities with trash collection. Public comment. I'm Brian McNeese. I'm a retired dean of arts and letters in Carroll Valley College, and I'll pass around the microphone to the other board members.
Good evening, I'm John Zeno, I'm a retired Navy captain and retired lieutenant, and a long-time volunteer at Board Hill State Park and estuary.
Hi everyone, my name is Ed Spriggs, council member in currently for 12 years until 2022, and previous chair and member of this group.
Hi, I'm Mary Johnson Paul. I am president of the Tijuana River Valley Equestrian Association. I've worked since I have been in the valley since 2006. We've been 3 floods.
I am Alberto Bongo. I am doing research on the water sanitation pollution.
Hello, my name is Leon Denham. I am president of the Citizens for Coastal Conservancy out of Imperial Beach. I have a background in the project manager for the Bayshore Highway, 2 phases of it, restoration work for Tijuana Valley Trails, and my home is on the estuary, and I have a community garden which services one of Imperial Beach.
Good evening, everybody. My name is John Duncan. I serve on part of the city council of our subcommittee on the transport sewage issue and a few other task force on this issue. So I appreciate you coming out tonight on this issue. Thank you.
Hey, Porter Rogers, and Air Operations Manager. You fill out with the National Better Water Commission. I've been in the position for 3 years. Before that, many years working at Southwest. Building here.
So we can segue directly, I think, into Morgan's presentation. And it's going to give us an update on things that have been happening on the border related to the transboundary to the problem. You can use that.
I take the portion of the plan.
Okay.
Now, Commissioner Lalonde, did you want to open this meeting up?
She is online.
Commissioner, able to say a few things?
See if we can get her. Commissioner?
Oh, yes. Thank you. And Richard, you didn't introduce yourself as a member of the board?
No, I didn't. I wasn't sure how the protocol was, but yes, I'm here. I'm a president of the Institute of the Americas based here in San Diego and also formerly with EPA.
Oh, well, thank you. Brian, thank you for giving me the opportunity and the board members for giving me the opportunity to give a few words. You know, I usually like to be there in person. Unfortunately, today I'm not able to be there. Due to a personal commitment. But I want to, first of all, thank all the board members for serving on this in this valuable capacity. You know, your input has been very useful, especially as we continue to advance the repairs on our plant, the rehabilitation, the expansion, as well as all of the other issues that are going on. You know, and I also want to thank all the participants that are there and are here online as well for taking an interest in your community and really advocating for your community. I have used San Diego as an example of how coalition building has been really impactful, benefiting our agency in terms of ensuring that we have the funding needed to operate and maintain this plant. As many of you know, the IBWC is responsible for much infrastructure all along the U.S.-Mexico border. And this is one of our areas that is a real priority for us because of the impact that it has had for the community. And we're here today to talk about what we're doing to solve the transboundary issues. Between 2010 and 2022, only about $4 million was invested in the plant. I'm sorry, 2021. Only about $4 million was invested in our wastewater treatment plant. And so right now, what we're doing is that we have a very debilitated plant, and in the last 18 months, we've redirected about $30 million of our funding into this plant to do the repairs in order to meet our compliance requirements. And so today, Morgan's going to be talking about all of the repairs that we're doing on our plants, but there's a lot of moving pieces that we're monitoring and managing in order to address these transboundary flows. And right now, there's a lot of catch-up work that needs to be done. Obviously, the rehab and the expansion of our plant is going to be really critical, and Morgan will talk about that. And then we signed 2 years ago, Minute 328. Minute 328 is the agreement we have with Mexico on the level of investment that each country is going to implement in order to address transboundary flows. And in Mexico, that's about 16 projects and $144 million of investment that they need to do within 5 years. And we'll be talking about that today as well, because Mexico has already secured 50% of the funding in 2 years. And there's a lot of construction going on. And unfortunately, that is having negative impacts on transboundary flows because of as you start doing repairs or construction projects, things tend to break as well as have issues. So we're closely monitoring that. And then finally, he'll be talking about what the work that we're doing on identifying what the problem is with the transboundary flows. I do want to recognize John Duncan that accompanied me to a meeting as well as other stakeholders to Tijuana, to San Antonio de los Buenos, and to see what Mexico has been advancing as far as their wastewater treatment plant. We had at that meeting on June 20th, Congressman Vargas, Congresswoman Sarah Jacobs, Mayor Aguirre, as well as staff from all the other members of Congress were there. And so again, these are regular meetings that are ongoing, again, to hold Mexico accountable. And then these meetings that we're having with the public are also to hold ourselves accountable. I am very personally involved and to the great level of detail of what's happening in the region, and very much keep tabs on how we're advancing our work. So given that, I just wanted to give an introduction to what Frank's I'm sorry, not Frank. Oh my God, I'm blanking out on Morgan's presentation. And again, to listen to the public comments that we're receiving. Thank you. That's all I had to say.
We can hear you.
Morgan? Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. What do I want to talk about?
And just so you know, okay, yes, we're not seeing the presentation. Thank you.
Quick one.
Should be right screen. I can move them for you. I'll move them for you, Morgan.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on at the border. What I want to first start off with is some of the things we're making progress on, such as the wastewater treatment plant, repair and rehab, work that's being done down at the San Antonio de los Buenos wastewater treatment plant, that we'll call SAB. The international collector, which is in Mexico, which brings a lot of the flow to the plant. And the Minute 328 project, the combination of Mexican and U.S. project along the border. I'll also talk about
then the challenges we have. I think we all know what those challenges are. The trans-boundary flows down the river, through our canyon, the sediment that comes across the border, and just accounting for all the flows in the San Diego, Tijuana wastewater infrastructure. And then we'll talk about at the end what we're doing to keep things moving. Okay, as the commissioner mentioned, we have moved about $30 million from the IBWC budget to address the issues at our plant. So, it's very awkward for me when I was at the managers meeting at headquarters, with all the other managers, and they all know that I took all their budget, took to my plant here, but we needed to do that. The plant is currently out of compliance, and these repairs that we have that we're doing now, our target is to regain compliance in August. Compliance with our NPDES permit, National Pollution Discharge Elimination System permit, which is issued by the Regional Water Quality Control Board. So
Really?
this is some of the work that has been going on at the plant to bring it back up. These are the major components. So starting off with the inflow pumps. There are 6 inflow pumps that grease the wastewater from Tijuana and pushes it through the plant to the primary and secondary treatment. After tropical storm Hillary, we were down to 1 pump because of all the excessive flow and all the trash and sediment that came through with that storm, took out all of our operational pumps except for 1. This is critical. We almost shut the plant down. Today we have 5 operational pumps, and we have 4 pumps either on order or getting repaired. So we'll have 3 spare pumps. One thing we did learn from Hillary was that we must have spare pump motors on hand. So when we have these accidents, we can just swap it out very quickly. These pumps here, about $500,000 each, and about 9 months lead time. For the pump. So we'll have some spares. The inflow meter. This is a project that we've been trying to complete. We started this over 2 years ago. What this will do will give us a second meter to measure the flow coming into the plant. We've since been relying on the effluent meter at the other end. Here's a picture. This is our commissioner who is inside one of these valves. Just to give you an idea how large these are. These aren't valves you pick up at Home Depot. These are custom made. I think it took us about 1.5 years to get these. It's a lot of time to get this work done, get the material we need. So this project will be completed by the end of this month. And again, this will give us redundancy in our metering. Primary sedimentation tank. So this is what is key towards our getting back into compliance. Primary treatment, where your old wastewater goes into these tanks. We have 5 of these tanks. And the solids either float to the top or stick to the bottom. The solids are skimmed off, top to the bottom, and sent to the sludge tank. So these were all inoperable since March of 2023. They were inoperable because the pipeline in Mexico broke. We lost some capacity in Mexico, and that capacity, we ended up taking more flow to the plant than we were designed for. Typically, we're in like the 30 million gallons per day range, and the design and permit is 25 million gallons per day. So the excess flows bring excess sediment, brings excess solids, and it damages the plant. And the tanks couldn't keep up with the solid buildup. Today we have 2 PSTs online, and we should have a third one online in the next week. And with 3 PSTs online, that's all we need to properly treat the wastewater. So with 3 PSTs online next week, whatever, there's a stabilization period. We're targeting compliance in August. And then we'll have all 5 PSTs operational in September, which will give us 2 redundant tanks. Okay. Walker Pump Station, okay. I will talk more about this later as far as where this is today, as far as the operation. But, we lost this pump station after Tropical Storm Hillary that ruined the pumps. We had 0 pumps operational after Tropical Storm Hillary. Today we have 4 brand new pumps. And we have a pump on order, so we'll have a redundancy of 1 pump extra. Okay, junction box 1 is also critical to this plant. This junction box, it's a concrete box with a metal pipe going in and pipe going out to the plant. This is where the flow from Mexico comes into the US, comes to this box, and then goes to our plant. It's been inoperable for a number of years. The valves have broken off or stuck in a position. So you've not been able to control the flow of the plant. So whatever comes from Mexico, we treat, if it's above 25 million gallons per day. This is the source of a lot of our problems. The excess flows of a long period of time. So we awarded the contract a while ago. We're in the 90% design phase right now. And our schedule has us constructing and completing this new box, J1, in February of next year. This will give us control of flow of the plant. Okay, this is a slide is on SAB. This is the Mexican wastewater treatment plant, about 6 miles down from the border, south of Tijuana. And this is supposed to go online in September. We think that's pretty aggressive, but that's what they're telling us. There was a visit, as the commissioner mentioned, back in June. And this is what it looked like back in June. So these are their primary sedimentation tanks, similar to ours, except for instance, the circular motion, let's get them off versus the back and forth. And this will be the secondary treatment. And the primary treatment is supposed to be online in September or thereabouts, the secondary to follow. So hopefully we're on schedule. We'll see some improvement on the water quality up in the ocean down south. This is rated at 18 million gallons per day. So it's not going to cover all the flows that are coming from up north Tijuana and be a discharge, but it'll be a big improvement. And this is a picture of what we talked before. This is the old SAD plant, this one was doing. This one, this lagoon here is filled in, and that's where new treatment plant is going. And we are monitoring the progress of this. Our commissioner has a monthly meeting, which he gets briefed by the State Department and the DNO, which is the Mexican equivalent of our Army Corps of Engineers. The International Collector Pipeline. This is the pipeline. It's in Mexico. And this is what carries the flow of the wastewater to the plant. It's been compromised. It's fractured. It has leaks. This digs into the source of some of the transitory flows in the river. This is being repaired. We have to be realigned or replaced. It's supposed to be done later this summer. What this will do is just make the system more reliable, and we'll see fewer leaks, fewer spills, and again, less flow in the Tijuana River. All right, so I just want to kind of summarize the other slide, the previous slides, and all the improvements we're making. So the junction box 1, this is supposed to be done in February to give us control of the flows of the plant. So we don't suffer from the excess flows. The international collector to be done later this summer. And this will prevent spills or flows into the river. When this was operational, we shut the flow down, try to restrict the flow, it would back up into the international collector. And we know there was a fracture right here. So because we could, if this was operational, we wanted to shut the flow down, it would back up and then come up this fracture right here and it come right in through one of our canyon collectors and it's going to the river. So both of these, we back in operation zone. And then we have the wastewater treatment plant here. This is supposed to be operational partially in September. or thereabouts. Pipeline 1A, this was ruptured back in July 2022, caused a lot of problems for us. We lost some capacity here, so instead of flow going through here, we were getting a lot of that flow into the plant. Excess flows over a long period of time. And this has since been fixed, but there are some, we're just having trouble getting it back online. This line right here is adequate for now for flow. Yeah. Question?
Where did the excess flow go once Junction Box 1 is working and go to slow down, then we're back?
Okay, everything's hard.
Everyone hear the question or?
Yeah, the question was, if we were to shut down or restrict the flow to Junction Box 1, where would the, say there's 30 million gallons per day, but we stopped at 25, where's that 5 million gonna go? It's just gonna back up to the international collectors. And then when peak flows go down, then it'll come back in. That's how it's supposed to work. Yeah. Well, yes, that's the way that's the way it's always operated until everything starts falling apart. But yeah, it was back up in here.
Related to that question. When it come online in February. Since it's gonna come online in February, that's well into the wet season. Which means there won't be an ability to, pump the flows. Until that's all. And what exactly would be the hazards to the plant that we had previously with flooding of the plant?
Yes, they would, but there's something I didn't mention is there's pump station PD1 is going through a rehab right now. And that rehab includes putting in some gate valves. Not only at the pump station, but also right here on both sides of the T here. And that's supposed to be done this summer also. So that will give us control for the Mexican side. We don't want to rely on them completely, so I mean, of course, we're going to fix this, but there will be some control on the Mexican side before the wet season.
And just one other question regarding the presentation. This visual is very helpful. SAP, San Antonio. You said the primary is going to come on stream. It's going to start working in September.
That's what they said.
That's what they
That's
said.
their schedule.
All right. And when does it go to secondary?
Probably towards the end of the year. And tell you what, the schedule is national as far as we're concerned.
Okay. So this goes right to the next question, which is who is monitoring the operation? How is quality control going to be maintained and maintenance so that it doesn't fail within almost as soon as they get started running? This is where the international oversight or IBWC oversight needs to be very relevant, even though it's another country. We have a stake, obviously, in that plant operating effectively going forward. And we don't have any reason to believe that without oversight, that is going to necessarily happen from history.
Good point. Got anyone add to that?
Thank you. So just a couple of brief points of clarification regarding your question. So when we were down there visiting a few weeks ago, those visits are organized by the U.S. consulate, and there's high-level federal, state, and local Mexican officials there. I mean, you obviously get the nail on the head, but to be fair, we have that same problem in our plant, right? So those meetings, which are part of the minute order, are ongoing and going to continue being ongoing. There's a couple of brief parts of the story that maybe like everybody may not know is, the Mexican Army Corps of Engineers or federal government came in and took over that plant and are doing the rebuilding, which had not happened before. They have double shifts of Mexican Army construction workers from all over the country doing it. A couple of points on the timing. Now they've said that it should be online by the end of September or October 1st when they plan on flipping the switch at the plant. And they readily acknowledge there may be, multiple problems when they see what happens when they flip the switch on, but that they are committed to that. And actually, when you saw the pictures of the tanks when we were there, they put up the first wall went up on the side of the tank while we were there. It's a little hard to envision in a few months, but for oversight, obviously, it's part of the minute order, which relates to the USMCA treaty, that we have to provide as our government and our official, with the chair, of course, goes to these meetings to ensure that it's done. So I think there'll be multiple issues with it, but there is a plan to ensure that it, keeps going, and there's a lot of scrutiny on it. So those meetings between their diplomats, right? Because our USIBWC is under what? It's under our State Department. That's why the U.S. consulate is the one organizing these meetings, and why the U.S. Congress members are going.
Yeah, I have a question, few more. So what you said that the international collector is being rehabilitated, so he is not in service right now?
We are getting close, not much vehicle. We're averaging right now about 18 million gallons per day plant for 25.
When the international collector is being repaired and it's coming through PPC instead, being rerouted through the federal government's pumping station.
PPC is the Mexican pumping station.
Right.
It just pumps out of the river. So whatever's in the international collector now is being rerouted, goes to Tijuana. But it's not at the full capacity.
But I guess my point is that the only way we get water through the plant is through the international collector.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, we are still moving forward with the expansion of the plant. We started the procurement process back in December. We had 5 interested parties that submitted statements of qualification. We chose 3 of the best qualified, and we have chosen the best qualified, and we're negotiating with that entity right now. And we expect to award the contract next month. There are also 2 contracts that we've also awarded. One with the Army Corps of Engineers, who asked for quality assurance. We'll be doing our contracting for us. And then Arcadis, we're doing the construction management and quality control. As soon as we award this project, we're going to start the design and build. So we start designing as soon as we have something to build, we're going to build right alongside our design. I can design for a year and then we start to build as soon as we can. The committee cost is $600 million. Minus 3%, that's a lot. We won't know the exact cost until we go through the negotiations with our selected contractors. We have the project in phases based on our funding, and we have a phase project is 45 million gallons per day, and we have other phases. Once we get additional funds, move to 50, and then the last, if we're fully funded, is 600. It's 50 million gallons per day with a peak up to 75 million gallons per day. And I think, as far as the funding right now, we had 300 million from USMCA. We recently received another 100 and another 100 million budget to IBWC. And so we're probably short maybe 200 based on the 600 estimates. But again, we won't know the cost until we finish negotiating. Okay.
Are there any more questions from the board? Morgan?
Just real quick on those 3 phases stuff work. I know the contract and I don't really are familiar with the contract. Do we have a rough estimate of the time?
I can say the cost and schedule are going to be dependent on the negotiations with the contractor. So they're going to pretty much tell us what they can do.
Right, because that is the question that I get the most from citizens, and is, okay, we're going to expand up. Obviously, the peaking factor of 75 million gallons per day is approximately 90%, right, or close of the heaviest flows we did. And they are, I'm just guessing when I talk to them, or slightly educated guess, hopefully, of what kind of time frames we're looking at on the whole project. I don't want to overly commit you, but if you have any comments, that's great. They may help us, but we're talking in a few years, then, all right?
2 years for what, for the construction start?
No, that's a start to go into it, to work. Like say, for instance, phase one, when do you think we would get the phase one expansion to target capacity of going down? Okay. We could ask the chair to get.
Well, we'll tell you what, man, as far as the schedule and cost, we'll have that about a month. Okay, once we negotiate. My guess is we're gonna start construction as soon as we can. So this could be a long phase one or base project. Completion is probably 2 or 3 years out.
Okay, so that's what my guesstimate has been. We'll work on the rest of the funding, but, okay. All right, so okay, all right, thank you.
Got a little hint, 3 to 3 years, maybe up to 5 years. So it just depends. Depends on, again, on funding and contractors. Okay, thank you. Oh, sorry, Ryan. No. Okay. All right, just very quickly, we talked about the minute 328 project. There is a list of projects, and they're all projects at the border. As the commissioner mentioned, the U.S. has committed $330 million to the project. That's primarily mostly just the plant. Mexico has pledged $124 million, and they have funded half of that. Okay, the fact that they've only funded half of that doesn't mean they're not committed. You got this, their funding process is you don't spend the money at the end of the year, they lose it. But they're only gonna fund it if they're ready to do the work. So we feel they are committed. There's a lot of projects here. I highlighted the ones that are ongoing right now. This is the plant, treatment plant. This is the rehab of the international collector, which is ongoing. Next slide. Lots of pipeline rehab projects, pump station upgrades. This is a good one. This is a study of the La Marita and Arturo Hero treatment plant in Mexico. So combined, they treat about 10 to 12 million gallons per day, secondary treated, just like our plant, and they just dump it in the river. It adds to transboundary flow. So this study is to reroute this flow with the treated water back to the reservoir or some other better facility. And then there's the SAB plant construction, but there's a whole up to 16 off the project here. Funded by Mexico and US and some combination. Okay.
Morning, I have a question about that slide. Okay, we can take it back. So number 13, it says rehabilitation of the pumping station and Matadero, Valverde. So I know we've had some flow across Matadero Canyon lately. So can you tell us a little bit about that project?
Yeah. This one is funded, it is underway. Flow that goes canyon lately. And I'm told the latest is that this will be partially coming back online later this month, so we'll see some reduction in flow. Number 2 is not funded, or I don't think there's a contract on this yet, or the Matadero. This Matadero is contributing to the flows through smugglers. And yeah, this has been a problem for us. I'm actually going across the border with my counterpart tomorrow to view the flows coming from these areas here. So yeah, these are a concern right now because all the pump stations down, and these are contributing to flows to the canyon.
Morgan, is the flow coming down to smugglers now because PD Matadero is not working?
I would say it's partially working. There was a leak over the rupture over the weekend, the big surge of flow. They fixed that. So the flow should be gone down since then, but there still is flow. So that flow is coming from the pump station. Not sure why. But.
I don't know if the public knows, but Matadero's Canyon, Valverde is both about 5 miles long. And Matadero, when they cross the border, we call it Smuggler's Gulch. Valverde, when they cross the border, we call it a canyon. Canyon geographical feature. It's a river, water flow across the border.
Yeah, I just want to make a really brief comment that came out of the visit to Mexico. And the commissioner may talk about it more, but it's just a brief comment. There are unidentifiable flows occurring right now that the Mexican government does not know where this volume of water is coming. Sounds bizarre, right? And they say, well, don't worry, it's not sewage, it's clean water. Well, if you don't know the source, how do you know it's clean water? Then the other big issue for USIBWC is water goes in the river, it's mixing with dirty water regardless and creates flow issues with some of the questions you're asking earlier. So that's something that they are investigating. We hope to get more information on next week.
Well, you know, in our climate, you know, any water during this time of year, we have dry, we don't have flow. So by definition, dry weather flow, 10 months out of the year are de facto sewage. And that's just, you know, that's the definition the EPA gives. And I know I see those rehabilitation of the Matadero and Oak Canyon and Smugglers, but I was looking at the EPA plan, and those various pump stations are to be decommissioned. And so, under the EPA plan. And so it seems as if they're rehabbing them, but if this project goes full blown, that they're going to in fact be decommissioned, and then all that volume, according to the EPA report, is 12.7 million gallons a day. And so that will be coming into the United States. And of course, Oak Canyon, you know, and the and smugglers, canyon collectors have to take up that volume, but the pipes aren't sized yet that size. So it really there's some coordination issues here too, and it's you know, it's this is some glaring item that will be addressed, because part of the problem that kills our plant is sand, rocks, gravel. And if you have that kind of flow coming in, you know, that kind of sediment is also going with it into our pipes. And so that means that those really have to be completely retrofitted and resized. And so those are glaring, you know, things that scopes of work that need to be addressed.
Okay, and I would say that is a very long-term plan. Ultimately, we'd like to not rely on the Mexican pump station. Once the treatment plant is capacity increased to 50 or 60, and we just gravity flow from Mexico to the plant. We don't have to rely on its pump station. So, yeah, this will get us through for quite a while. I think any plan to decommission these instead of flow to our plant is way out in the future. But good thoughts. I appreciate it. Oh, also one other thing. You talked about refining dry water flows and sewage. The flows that aren't in the river, definitely sewage. A mixture of the treated water from the treatment plant. There's groundwater from the rain, and whether that's still impacting or not, I don't know. But Mexico claims that we did have a lot of rain this year, and that does contribute to groundwater seeping into the river. There's likely some potable water leaking and everything else. So not on a lot to it.
At our last meeting, our colleague did a presentation regarding some of the unconnected sources of pollution, those including some of the factories, but a lot of shanties, stacks that are on river in the rivershed, with the watershed like big on the hillside, etc. I've seen those, and they appear to be growing in number as people are attracted to the water area. We also know that there are subdivisions that aren't connected. That's part of that report. It would really be great if we had a sort of top-down view of where these sources are and what is going to capture them in terms of the work that's being planned and done right now. To me, there's the question of whether all of this investment in infrastructure on both sides of
border is actually. That's the new development, like all the big informal projects. And how much is going to be left over, that's gonna be on the Mexican side, that still is going to make its way, across the border. And I guess the question is whether those flows will be captured by the transit plan, and its capture infrastructure.
Well, I would say that the new infrastructure, all the projects that are ongoing, will make the Mexican infrastructure much more reliable. And so there'll be fewer leaks, fewer spills, therefore fewer less contribution to the river. I'm not sure that any of these projects are new developments, the ones that are new pipelines going to new developments. I think they're all existing pipelines that are being prepared or rehab. I'm not sure if I answered your question or.
I think my question is really required,
A look, satellite view or top-down view of the watershed, where the pollution sources are, and which parts of the current and future infrastructure improvements are going to capture it. Okay, we don't have, it's very difficult, even for somebody like me and follow the structure here, to have a comprehensive view of source and treatment, and what's left over, what's the remainder of that track.
Let me answer that. Next slide. Someone else. Those are our progress slides, and now for the challenges. I think everybody knows what those are. So the infrastructure in Tijuana is inadequate to capture all the flows, as well as can feed all the flows. And this results in transboundary flows in the river, the canyon, and also untreated water being discharged south of Tijuana. So this is a picture of the river last week. And there's an interior channel here. So this is 45 million gallons per day. That's what that looks like. Probably hard to tell what that looks like in the picture here. And it's a canyon collector. This goes to canyon also last week. And normally the flow is contained here and it goes into a box in a plant, but you see it's overflows. And this is a picture of the discharge down in Tijuana. Goes right on the beach. Well, SAB is a little bit north of that. But, yeah. And 35 to 45 million gallons per day. This is a highway, 2-lane each way. So you can imagine two cars, here to that. You can probably get two cars in there pretty easily. It's a huge discharge. And of course, the negative impacts to the transboundary flows and discharges to the ocean, we're all aware of. Okay. Next. So just to get some bearings here, this doesn't show it very well. Here's the international border. Here's the wastewater treatment plant. This is PVC right along the river. Its sole purpose is to divert flows from the river and get it into the system. Here's the international collector right along the border here. And then so flow in here, you take 25 million gallons per day off, and the rest goes to PV1. And PV1 then pumps it up the hill, and when it gets up the hill, gravity feeds down towards SAB and ocean discharge. All right, so we get transboundary flows down the river. Discharges out the beach here. We also get discharges through the canyons. These green areas are canyons, the low areas. So when you have a pipeline break, everything flows downhill and it comes out to the canyon. This is Ghost Canyon here. This is Smuggler's Gulch. This is Del Sol, Silver Drain, and we got Stewart's Drain over here. We try to capture all the flows and they go to the plant. Like, okay, transboundary flows and the canyon collector, just more pictures. This is Smuggler's Gulch. This is what it looks like during normal operations. We will add during the dry season a layer of sandbags to give a little more capacity. And this is what it was, I think just a couple days ago. You can see a little bit of flow here. This is what it looks like today. And this is Ghost Canyon. Again, this is what it's supposed to look like. There's usually always a little bit of flow. Flows we're seeing today would normally be contained. The Hollister pump station is down. So this is what it looks like today, the kind of flow we're getting. And this is, I think about a little over 1 million gallons per day. And this is about 600,000 gallons a day. Okay, next slide. Okay, this is just a diagram of, this is the Hollister pump station. And this is currently out of commission. I don't know if I mentioned this before, there was a surge tank. And, okay. So many presentations, I'm mixing them all up. So, last month, a pressure relief valve on a surge tank at this pump station was stuck open and it caused a spill. And we had to shut the Hollister pump station down, repair that. This isn't a new valve is not on hand, you had to order this. Same time, we had to clean out the surge tank and it was filled with sediment. That was the cause of that valve failure. So this is out of commission right now. So this is Smucker's Gulf Canyon collector. So it gravity feeds to the pump station. This is the Goats Canyon collector. It gravity feeds to this pump station, and then this pump station goes to Hollister. So if Hollister goes out, we have to shut this Canyon collector down, and this is the case today. Means all the flow is not captured, it just goes downstream. It just goes downstream. And I know that we've got this is starting to flood here, and it's come over this direction. So we did, before we could put that tank back in operation after cleaning, we have to get it certified. And we did that last week. Results of the testing for certification we should get like any time now. And hopefully they'll tell us that the tank is good. We can put it back in operation. An old tank, so we're crossing our fingers. We are already looking for a new tank. We're also already considering some new piping scheme where we don't need these surge tanks. So we're looking ahead in case that we have to replace these tanks, we can't put them back into operation. But we hope to get this back into operation as soon as possible. We do know that these flows here are just unacceptable. And I am going across the board tomorrow with my counterpart, see where these flows are coming from. I know they're coming from the pump station upstream, but if there's something that we can do to reduce these flows or stop these flows. Questions on Hollister? Pitch.
One back, candy collectors. Part of the lawsuit settlement included not only updating the candy collectors, updating the candy collectors, and also doing some kind of testing of what's coming into the candy collectors, so we know, are these road flows, or is this just, somebody emptying their pool up on the hillside? And if so, what kind of results are we seeing?
The answer is yes. I think that was an original permit. So when we have transboundary flows, we require to take a sample, immediate sample, and another composite sample later. So we do take samples. If the transboundary flows in the middle of the night, we're not going to send somebody out there. So it's like during the day, we will take samples. You have sample results. I can't tell you off the top of my head what the results are. But those go to the water board every month. If there's a transboundary flow, it goes to the transboundary flow report. So we do that.
And that's a great segue to my next question is, so you mentioned a couple of times you're out of compliance. What is the Regional Water Quality Board doing about that? Are you guys on notice? Are you being fined? Are you being chastised?
I'll tell you what, we have a very good working relationship with the water board. They understand our challenges. We meet weekly. They come to our plant weekly and we go through the status of the plant. We've got several NOVs and, we can't argue with those. We have a time schedule order on us to come back into compliance and bring some of these components that are out of commission back into operation. So they're heavily involved and I'd say it's a very cooperative relationship. There.
Just really quickly, I just wanted to say, if you don't know Mitch McKay, he's a council member from Imperial Beach, so I appreciate you being here and the partnership Imperial Beach has had across the board, including Mayor Geary, so thank you for being here. Just on behalf of Coronado, are there any other government officials here that we should introduce? I'm sorry I didn't introduce you earlier, Mitch, but I appreciate you being here. Yeah, thank you so much.
Can I add something? Can I add something to what Morgan just said? with
Is there a
regards to
reason
the-
why there's never a sign up that says
Just 1 second.
potentially
Commissioner.
you're crossing sewage when it's flooding over the Arizona crossing there, smugglers, and also like Forester Street? Because people from the public come through there on their bicycles and stuff. I saw 3 kids yesterday, well, young people, and if they've ridden their bikes through it, it tosses it up in their faces. So I said, hey, it might be sewage. And so they stopped, they got off, they were able to step across because the flow in one place wasn't very wide. They could step across and carry their bikes so they didn't, get it all dirty, but people drive through it and it's just, and carry it home and.
You're absolutely correct. I had a discussion with the city. We will have signs, next time there's a spill, an officer will have a sign on both ends.
Thank you.
Morgan, I have a commissioner that wants to say something here. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Oh, thank you, Frankie. One of the things that I wanted to add to the discussion on the Regional Water Quality Control Board, there is one piece that's not included in this presentation, and we can most certainly include it in our next presentation, is that part of our time schedule order was also to do sampling in the canyons so that we can actually create a better baseline of information of what's actually flowing in the canyons. And so that has been, because we did get a bump in our funding, all the advocacy that you have done with regards to the IBWC, we've gotten very good funding increases in the last 2 years, in spite of the appetite for funding increases is really not there. All of the other federal agencies got budget cuts. And so we're really trying to message to our stakeholders that we're trying to re-baseline this agency, because we are just trying to get to the baseline, right? And so that's how we're justifying our funding increases. But part of that was also, and that's what Morgan talked about, we got our construction budget was tripled. It went from $50 million a year for the entire border up to $156 million this year. And so a good portion of those funds are being allocated to this plan. I can't share the exact amount because I'm still waiting for Congress to approve my operating plan, which, we're almost at the end of the fiscal year, but processes are processes. I must adhere to. Anyways, but we did fund that water quality monitoring that we're also going to be doing on the canyons, and this is now being integrated permanently within our budget. That's all I wanted to add. Thank you, Frankie.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Morgan, you have a few more slides? Or
Yeah.
We're already behind. I'd like to kind of speed it up.
Like,
Thank you.
okay, mentioned sediment is a problem. Sediment coming across with the flows. This is Smuggler's Gulch. This is the picture we took in back February. See all this, and this here's what it looks like plain. So this sediment gets in here, and this is the inlet to our candy collector box. So the flow comes in, goes into the box here, and then it gets pumped to, or it flows back to a pump station. So when you get all this, just clogs, the all the sediment here, it clogged up the box here, and we have to shut down. And we shut down, then we have transboundary flows. This is an ongoing problem. It's a problem that's gotten worse in the last year. Next slide. And we also get this sediment, not just the candy collectors, but also coming into the plant. And it ruins pumps and valves. It causes a big problem.
Next slide.
Okay, this is a quick graph. This is the volume of sediment that we've been getting over the years. You can see it's a big jump here. All right, now somebody said, well, you get all this excess flow into the plant. Yeah, of course you're gonna get more sediment, but this is huge. And you can see here, we've actually averaged 22.7 million gallons per day this year, much less than 3 out of the past 4 years. So there is more sediment coming through. As the cause of that, they don't have the erosion control requirements that we have in the United States. There's a huge construction project on the other side of the border from Smuggler's Gulch. No erosion control. It's a huge, it's been, all the brush has been taken away, so it's, yeah. Anyway, sediment is a constant issue with us, and we always bring that up with in our meetings with our counterparts. Next slide. Okay, this is just to show you the flows in the rivers. Okay, so we're getting a lot of flows. Last year was big. This one here, we're only halfway through the year. And this is, we're up to 33 million gallons so far. This is a comparison of each year, total annual. Yeah, 34 last year, we're already 33. And here's the dry weather flows. Also seen a very big increase in the last 2 years. Okay, next slide. Okay, this is looks pretty messy here. So this is a slide that was given to us by CESP, wastewater provider in Mexico, Tijuana. This just shows all the flows we should expect during dry weather season. Zero flow in the river, 25 million gallons per day at the plant, and up to 50 million gallons per day down the SAB. Okay, this is kind of that hard to focus here, but we've been averaging 45 million gallons per day in the river, 18 million gallons per day at the plant. And then down here, instead of 50, we're seeing 22. So this tells us, I update this thing every day. We have meters here, here, and here. These are all the outputs of the system. So this gives me a good idea of what's going on. This tells me we're not getting enough out of this pump station here. And we know that. So the key to getting control of these flows is to get this pump station back in operation, get all the work in here done, the upgrades to PD1 pump station done, it gets back up to speed. Right now, we're seeing about 12 million gallons per day, and this should be seeing 35. So this is we're talking about the mass balance. We're talking about where's everything going, or where are the sources. This is what we're getting at. So we have this. We have some tables that we work with our Mexican counterparts to plug in the values. We do analysis, a mass balance, to see where the flows are coming from, where they're going, make sure everything equals out. But this gives us an indication of if something's going wrong. You know, not just that, hey, we got too much flow in the river, but there's not enough here. You know, it points to this pump station right here. And that's with one pump on at PBC. We are diverting some flow to the river. It's not much. And these projects should be done in the next couple of months. And then we should see PB1 start ramping up again. And add additional pumps and PVC are coming online and reduce flow in the river. Okay, next slide. Okay, this is the last slide. All right, this is what we're doing. This is what we've been doing. This is what we'll continue to do. Continue with the repairs and upgrades to the plant. Continue with the expansion. We do have regular meetings at the commissioner level, as well as the level down, the principal engineers. We're monitoring the 328 projects, also SAB, as well as the sediment control is a constant. It's always on the agenda. We're trying to get them to implement some erosion controls in their projects. I have bi-weekly meetings in my office with my counterparts. We go over the specific projects, make sure we're coordinated. We accompany CESP and SELA, or my counterpart, monthly on, drive down the river, see where all the inputs are coming from, and kind of note the conditions. And then after we've done it a few times, we've seen the big changes, see a lot of flows somewhere. Well, next step is to investigate that. And then we're getting into mass balance reports, where we are sharing data with our counterparts, and again, trying to figure out where all the flows are going, where are they coming from, and with ultimately to try to reduce the flows in the river. And I have seen a great improvement in communication in the last month since we started implementing all these meetings. I get a lot more advance notice when something's going on. I also get pretty prompt responses when, things are fixed. So it's been very good. So I think that's my last slide. What was slide? Is it questions?
I think we have one question over here. Well, I'll take that one. I'd really like to move on to two more presentations. So
First of all, I would say thank you so much for actually dealing with all this. Everyone's probably telling me so many things, but the fact that you're actually doing it, I really appreciate it. I wanted to ask specifically about the Hollister pump. In your expansion design, is there a way to create redundancy with that pump? Because clearly it's being out of commission is a large impact in many different ways, and because it feeds multiple different avenues, it seems like it might be a powerful place to have redundancy, and if that's part of your expansion.
Good question. The pump station has 4 pumps, and we only need 2 pumps. So it already has 2 pump redundancy. The problem is really the sediment coming through. And I think our plant design, we hope that it will include some sort of a sediment removal, at least for the plant. And we're looking at ways to reduce the sediment at the canyon collectors. Actually, our plant operator is working on some design for some trash and sediment collection. So I think he's going to present later on tonight. So yeah, it's really a sediment problem at Hollister.
okay, I've been admonished by my leader over here that we should take questions online, and there's the email address here for Frank, Oregon. We can answer your questions all the way up online. Okay, can you wait until later for your comment? Yeah. Okay, we'd like to move on the agenda, and we have with us then today Crystal Berm and Moises Pinheiro from the San Diego County Parks and Recreation Department on the current efforts at dredging and berm repair in the Tijuana River Valley by the county and the city of San Diego.
A little higher, is that all right? Okay, great. Well, hi, everyone. Thank you for inviting us here tonight. We're really happy to be here to chat with you. Thank you, Brian, specifically for reaching out to us and asking us to come and talk to you. My name is Crystal Berm, and I'm the chief of our resource management division for county parks. And I'm here with Moises Pinheiro, and he is also a chief, but over our development division for county parks. So we have a lot going on at the county when it comes to this issue, and we were asked to speak specifically to what we're doing in Smuggler's Gulch related to our dredging and our berm repair work. So I know that there's other things that you probably have questions about, and we're happy to come back at other points in time if there's other issues you want to discuss. But just to set expectations, this presentation is specifically about that issue. Next slide, please. So just to set the stage with the geographic context, our map here shows the Tijuana River Valley and the general ownership in the valley. So what I want to highlight here is the green area. So the green area is our about 1,800 acre Tijuana River Valley Regional Park. And so really this is why the county and our parks department specifically is so involved in this issue, is because that land is directly impacted by what's going on with the cross-border flows. And really a lot of what we're doing in the area is to be able to maintain this for the visitorship, the folks that are getting out there and using our trails and our other resources within our regional park, which is really important for us. Okay, next slide, please. So just for a little bit of background, I think most of you know, we did a study that we completed in 2020 that looked at the issue from a couple of different lenses. So we looked at specifically transborder flows in terms of the sewage issue, but then also in terms of trash and sediment. And really what our study demonstrated is we need to deal with these issues a little bit differently. So Morgan was highlighting a lot of the sewage issues and really the attempt to get the flows within the pipelines, send them to treatment plants and treat the water. The trash and the sediment's a little bit different. We can't do that. We can't just send it to a treatment plant. So what we're looking at is 2 different things. The first thing is source control. So really the principle there is to trap the sediment and the trash as soon as it enters our system. So at the closest point that it enters the system and remove it from the system there. If we don't do that, if we don't trap it at the source, it just flows and enters the rest of the river valley, which is a lot of what we're dealing with right now. So I think a lot of you know that the IBWC is working on some trash booms. There's some conceptual design for trash capture at the main stem of the Tijuana River. The Goat Canyon State Parks has infrastructure, both trash capture and sediment capture in that area. And Smuggler's Gulch, the area that we're talking about specifically tonight, has neither trash capture or sediment capture devices in that area. So really what we've been doing to handle the issue there is annual dredging. So every year we go in and we remove the accumulated trash and debris from that area. And it's just simply not efficient. And so what I'm talking about tonight is our two efforts. One is that maintenance that we're still doing, but then also our larger plans for infrastructure in that area, really to get at this source control issue. So next slide, please. So in terms of Smuggler's Gulch, historically, the county has done the dredging south of Monument Road, and the city of San Diego has done the dredging north of Monument Road, as well as the pilot channel. We've been working really closely with the city to coordinate our efforts and do the dredging together and not do it separately the way we had in the past. So this year we were able to leverage county funding with an additional 4.25 million that we got from the state. So 5 million in total to do this dredging work. And that's the dredging work we're doing right now. It will be the entirety of Smuggler's Gulch, north and south of Monument Road, as well as much of the pilot channel as we can. So this year we had really unprecedented conditions. As you know, there was a lot of flooding in the river valley, and that also resulted in one of the berms. So essentially the walls of Smuggler's Gulch have these berms. One of them broke on the western side, which resulted in flows from Smuggler's Gulch then entering our campground. So we're also working really closely with the city to repair that berm. There was a spill, like Morgan mentioned, over the weekend, so there's actually a lot of flows right now. But as soon as the flows go down, the city will get in there to fix the berm. And we're still working on the dredging very intensively. This year, because of the emergency conditions, we're able to get emergency permits to do the work. So normally our regulatory permits restrict us. We can only do the dredging work between September and March of every year. But due to the nature of the emergency, we're able to continue the work past that March deadline, provided we have biological monitors and other things that we're doing to make sure we're meeting the terms of the permit. So we're able to do the work and continue to do the work, and we're expecting that that will go through the end of this calendar year. We'll continue to do the dredging work. So then in terms of the long-term work, so like I mentioned, long-term, our intention is to do source control right where Smuggler's Gulch enters the United States, which happens to be on our county property. So the long-term plan, we received a $10 million grant from the State Coastal Conservancy to put in trash booms, as well as sediment capture infrastructure right there where the water comes into the US. And so we're currently in design for that project. I don't have a lot of the details. I know in the past, folks have asked us about how we'll operate and maintain those facilities. Since we're still in the design phase, I don't have those answers tonight. But once we get further in the design, happy to come back and speak to you about the specifics of that project. We also received federal earmark funding through the EPA to do another round of dredging. So our long-term plan will do dredging, like I mentioned, for the entirety of this year. Then we'll do another complete round of dredging to have 2 full cycles before we put this infrastructure in Smuggler's Gulch. We're really trying to maximize the capacity of both Smuggler's Gulch and the pilot channel before we install that infrastructure. We really think that will set us up for success long-term. So one of the other issues that we're dealing with in terms of sediment and trash management is where do we put the sediment? So right now we put the sediment in local landfills and it's very expensive. And so we've been working with state parks on a project for the Nelson Sloan Quarry. Many of you are probably familiar with this site. It was a former mining site that was never restored to its natural elevation, how it was previously. So it's essentially a bowl. And so the plan that we have for this area is that we would take some of the sediment that we dredge, of course, test for its quality. And what we can, we will put and beneficially reuse this in the quarry. And what that will do is it'll allow us to restore the site to how it was previously before the mining. And then after we're done and it's all filled in, we'll do restoration with vegetation on it. So state parks did complete the environmental analysis for that project. And we're currently working together on the regulatory permits so we can move into implementation for that project. That is all I have for tonight. I'm happy to take any questions that you may have. Our contact information is up there, and I'll be around after the meeting too. And I have my business cards if you want my number and things like that too. Follow up. Yes, Leon.
Yeah, so I've been on this project probably for about 10 years. The approach that the county has taken is not to recognize that the river has changed location. There's been at least 5 sediment studies done, and none of them look at where the river. And as you can see, that where the brown part is where the river now is located. And so by changing the river, it doesn't have the fall. And so you're taking away all the energy that it had when it was a confined channel.
Where's it gonna flow? Where's it gonna flow?
Well, hold on. Let me just show you. There we go. I want to just show you this. Is that
The issue is you've got pilot channels, but where'd they go? They brought it into the Willow and didn't get cleared when the IBWC cleared it east of, all the story, when the county's fault. It's
Yeah.
well. But
okay? So
it's going nowhere.
Yeah, I understand what you're asking. And maybe you can go back to one of the beginning slides, because I think we could have about this.
well, I just wanted to show that this is the river prior to it being relocated. And it was relocated, according to Lori Saldana, that it was intentionally relocated. And they thought at the time that they would spread the water over the valley to create more wetlands. But that policy really has created the sediment issue that we have now. Because according to the 1960s, 70s survey by Doug Inman, who's the founder of the Scripps Institute of Coastal Studies, he documented that river in this configuration would transport 655,000 cubic yards every year on average. So when you spread the water out, it doesn't have the energy in the main channel to carry it. And so that's where you get the accumulation. And also, you and I have talked about scouring, that if you think about it, 655,000, a dump truck is 10 yards. So that means in a span of 30 days, 65,000 trucks have to go down that river. And with stones, rocks, sand, basically that scour, it cleans the river every year. And the other thing that's happened is that there is accumulations of concrete, flat, big pieces of concrete that doesn't allow the sand to roll. So basically, you're spreading the water out and you're defeating the very essence of what the river does in this type of configurations. We don't get much rain, about 30 days a year, but in that 30 days, that 650,000 has to come to our beach, and our beaches are getting narrow. So it's a multifaceted problem, and I know that wildlife prevents you from going down the channel because you have to get these permits, but they have to realize that in the long term, restoring the river is the best ecological answer to maintaining the river. So.
No, we've talked about this quite a bit, and that restoration is very important for us too. And I think this, what we're talking about, is the first stage of a long process, right? This isn't going to be the end, but what Morgan was highlighting is we have a mass influx of sediment into the system. It's way higher than we've seen in the past, so much so that it's inundating the system and it's collecting and it's pooling. And so our strategy to remove that excess and, like I said, capture it at the source and get it out of the system is so that we can return some of those natural properties, some of the scouring conditions that we would like to see too, as long as we can remove some of the excess sediment. So I definitely understand, and your larger issue of restoration, I think is a good point, but it's a different and much larger project than what we're talking about.
Actually, when they did topographic studies in the 1960s, and then the IBWC did LiDAR radar and compared the flows on an average basis. And because a big rain year like today, you do, like this year, you get a lot of sediment. On other years, you get little. But it's interesting, the initial prediction by Doug Inman in the 1970s was 655,000. The accumulation, according to the current LiDAR radar, is 640,000. So it's almost the same as it was in the 60s. So I guess the point is that, yeah, we do have lots of sediment, but it's been building up now since they changed the location of the river. It's been 30 years of accumulation. So the river goes like this. And so the water spreads. So again, wildlife has to realize that we need to rechannel the river back to its original location. Thank you.
Yeah.
The answer was just, do what they get the permit that they get from Fish and Wildlife. And I worked on when I was county supervisor. Best. Because you got a 90, I mean, you got a 180 right here, and just the point is, why does a river reverse course? Because what happened was the Fish and Wildlife guys back in the 80s said, well, the river will scour itself. The trouble is, they didn't know that there were tons of trash that came into the willow, blocked it, and now you've got a permanent dam. So the folly is that if you do not do the pilot channel west to the tidal flush, all you're doing is going to have a channel that runs in and slams into the willow, and that's going to be your trash collector. And then the silt up. Right now, you're over 25 to 30 feet above the surrounding property because this flow is going to continue to do it. And I understand, I was there with you fighting it. But if these guys can get a permit from the federal government, go in and clear a 20-foot channel, then why can't the county? And maybe we need to help you guys talk to the fish and wildlife about, look, why ours is useless. We run all right to the bridge, and the river, for those of you who don't know, go to Hollister, the river turns. It goes west, turns to the north, comes back, doesn't it? And it does and then it sweeps around. And just so you know the cost of this, Mrs. Martinez lived there. Mr. Rodriguez had a ranch there. All of those people were wiped out because the feds would not allow a pilot channel to go through west of the Hollister Street Bridge, the same channel that IBWC has maintained for 30 years. And I'm sorry about this. I'm frustrated because I tried to avoid that when I was at the county. The trouble is taking the silt out of the valley and shipping it up over to the old Nelson Sloan operation is not going to address the problem. You're still going to have a dam there, and you're going to be shipping, which is not environmentally responsible at all. We should do what we did it with the Mississippi River. Let the river flow, and it will scour its own. And then, let's see what level rise. How can we be taking sediment and putting it up on a hill when we need it on our beaches in Imperial Beach? We're a community surrounded on 3 sides by water. And this project is to take sand that's supposed to go to the beach, right? Wouldn't it naturally go there? That is being shipped over and now being put on the highland. And I understand you're doing the best you can with what you got. I've been in your place. But it's time after 30 years that we say, whoa, we got to get to the source of the problem, and that is have the pilot channel where it's supposed to be. And Okay, what happened? You look on this, you'll see a natural river. Yeah. You'll see the river flow this way. It flowed through the middle, coming down the line. It was after the 1985 flood that we came in, and that willow, they refused to clear it. The IBWC clears it all the way in there. You can see the straight line here, and it clears all the way to the bridge. It's supposed to go west. Rivers don't do a 180 naturally. But the bureaucracy said, you can clear a 20-foot channel to the bridge, but you can't clear the rest of it. Well, come on, I've had a lot of work with sewage. When you plug things up, bad things happen. And this was a bureaucracy that we just didn't get together and say, not just no, but hell no. We need to have a clear path through the willow so the flow can go up to 4.5 knots, start scouring and do the natural thing. But as long as you have the trash, you've got to have that. And I just really think that the one thing the counties needs to do is get together with the IBWC and do a joint permitting process so that you have it. Because right now, what good is it for you guys to have that pilot program? I mean, the pilot channel, it stops. So I'm sorry, but I've watched this my entire life, watching this thing where you've got so many federal agencies involved with this, and there's no coordination. And I saw the county getting blamed for this problem. And frankly, I took it personal because I was in that fight too. The fact is, the real blame is everybody didn't get together and grab the fish and wildlife by the scruff of the neck and said, where do you expect this silt to go? And with sea level rise, this is the first line of defense for 25,000 people in Vero Beach. And that's why I worry about you talking about trucking it over.
I think the point has been made. Leon, let's sit down. And let's let Leon finish. And let's let Crystal finish.
Pirate Channel, we have been working on this closely with the city. It's actually the city's permits that allow us to do that dredging. And we do work really closely together. This issue of engaging with Fish and Wildlife, we're happy to work on that. And you know, if there's additional coordination, we do all work quite closely together. So we'll explore that. We appreciate you bringing that up.
Thank you for the comments. I'm new to the county as well. So 29 years of Department of Defense history of facilities management. We're here for a reason, to help find a solution. We'll partner. Thank you for the comments. We are partnering today, and we'll continue to work with that to find solutions. So we'll pick up the baton and run with it as best as we
Too bad
can.
it's too late for Mr. Martinez and Rodriguez to this collateral damage in this game, but this is a chance. Your project's a chance to say, where does the water go? Got to be a connection over to the title.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, well, if anything comes up, like you mentioned, we'll be around after the meeting, so happy to follow up. Thank you.
Frankie, we have our hands up online. We're coming from. Oh. Okay, and nothing from Richard Kai online, unfortunately. Okay, we're going to move over into the public comment. And we do have some folks who have called and signed up for that. So we have Mark, oh, that's right. We have Mark Butler. He's listed here under public comment, but he works with Veolia, and they're going to give us that little presentation on their efforts.
And, this is the first meeting I've been to, and, I agree with everybody that's here. From what I see, from my point of view, is that we started having a lot of more issues at the canyon collectors and stuff from Mexico. And, what we've been working on is a potential design for removing the trash and settlement. So what we have for the, Tijuana River, we're still working on designs and stuff and concepts for the canyon collectors. But the basic design is create parallel channels in there. And with the channels, we have a modified, we call a V filter. And what it does is all the sediment that's going to be rushing through the Tijuana River or any other canyon collector is going to be coming through these channels. But these channels have Venetian slots. So as the flow comes in, it's coming in really fast, but the water is going to seek its own level and it's going to settle all this trash and debris out. The gray area there is access ramps. So when the rain event is over, you can come in there with heavy equipment and remove the trash and sediment and set it up for the next time. So, and it's basically a concrete structure with 1/4-inch stainless steel sheeting, you know, for the heavy duty robustness that you're going to need for a river of raging flows. And the only thing that's going to pass there is the water and anything that's smaller than 1/4 of an inch. So, yeah, there's another slide. Of what size? Cobblestones? No, they won't pass. If it's greater than 1/4 inch, it's not going to pass. It's going to stay in those brown areas there with the trash and debris collected. Where it's just going to leak out the side. The water's going to seek its own level, and then it'll go on its way to the estuary. You can see like a little side view with the access ramp, and then where the V filter wall would be. There will be 8 individual walls, one here, you know, 2 in each. And as the flow comes in the inlet, it's going to be oozed out on the other side with the water. The trash and everything will be in there. And then on the outlet side, if you're looking towards Mexico, you'll see 4 access ramps and then 4 open areas for the water to come through. So, any questions, comments? Well, ideally, we know Mexico's not going to solve their problem issue, but there should be one on both sides. There's enough room just past the border to put it on the existing concrete apron that's there right now on the US side. And that will protect the US. And in Mexico, probably along where the Catate River, at the beginning of Tijuana there on their side, they could have another one for protecting their investment. But in regards to the US, it would be on this side.
So the only thing that I think about is, you know, in Del Mar and La Jolla, they have tributary rivers that are coastal feeder systems, and that sediment and sand and cobbles is critical to maintain the beaches. They're actually, it's state law. And so in this case, I mean, the trash, definitely we want to capture. Trash tends to float. And so that would be something that, you know, just get the head around, is that the sediment is by right, we need the sediment on the condition. So that's.
Well, when you collect the stuff and put it in there, you know, your front end loader, they do have sifters and graders and stuff like that. They have a McCloskey or whatever like that that's out there right now for the canyon. They're removing all the trash and debris. And that's one thing that will happen is, you know, after the rain event, all the plastics and stuff will be on top. But there's a lot of clothing, little kids' toys, you name it, it's there.
Yeah,
So.
Trash will be collected the US side?
Well, yeah, but most of it's. Oh, the US side is the nice blue color and the brown color is, Mexico side.
The border is where?
The border is on the brown side, a little bit on it. If you go back to the other picture. Well, yeah, that's. Yes, it is. Well, yeah, it can go on the other side of the border as well. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, as for the canyon collectors, they're gonna have to do the same thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
We just chain link across there or heavy stuff, you would stop the refrigerators and you would stop a lot of the stuff. If you had really big squares to stop with, you stop the big stuff there. Then you have smaller squares and smaller squares, and you can do the little fine stuff over on this side.
if you do something like fence, that's not gonna last.
Okay, not changing. but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Not the, because they need to keep their trash. They need to dispose of it somehow,
Yeah.
or recycle it, because
We can plug up all the canyons too. I'd like to do that, plug up all the canyons. Yeah, that does. Yeah.
so
And this will keep the trash from, it can go anywhere, but the thing is that you think it's gonna be put in Mexico? Yeah.
Everything you said,
Well,
it's up to do sewage for trash, but same answer.
Yeah.
that's true, but sewage will degrade with the sun, and it is watering all those things in the valley that are growing, which you don't really want it to. You don't really want it as a water, because it's killing the fish. I get that. But we can't stop the water, but we could stop the trash.
Oh, I think everyone here's.
So, yeah, it's just a question of where you're gonna put it. Right now, we're hauling the trash out anyway. After every rain event. It's all being hauled out and,
The county's not gonna have enough money to haul the trash out of
no, it's the only,
basins.
for what's happening in canyon collectors. Veolia is paying for it. It's part of our stuff at IBWC, and with the last rain events, we've had 70,000 just for one rain event, just to clean out the trash. Where here, we can protect, our investment and the canyon collectors, the lift stations, Hollister. You get that fine silt and clay that's coming through, that's destroying all our pumps.
So it's good if you can stop that and protect those pumps, because every time they go out too, then you just get more pollution through the valley. But I'm just saying, there should be an arrangement with Mexico that you tell them, we're not taking the trash anymore, and they need to deal with it. They need to stop throwing it in their rivers.
Yeah. That's true.
That's what the state department should be for.
Yeah.
May I take the mic?
I know that when we negotiated the NAFTA, and got rid of NAFTA, in that agreement, that Mercatus report specifically said that Mexico signed the agreement that they would capture the trash on the concrete apron inside of Mexico, because it was theorized that that big concrete pad is a perfect place. And there was a drawing made of, what the K rails are? The K rails are used on highways to prevent, and there was like a fish gill. And that's what Mexico agreed. Mexico did agree to capture the trash in the concrete channel on their side of the border. So that's why, again, here it is, 4 years later? Yeah, 4 years later, and they're not carrying through with their agreement. And so I appreciate the thinking outside of the box here. Well,
there's no problem moving over to Mexico and giving it to, That's just the concept of, how to, not destroy the river, the river water flow. As for the sand and debris that's normally carried through, I mean, how do you separate it, from, you got like 33,000 cubic feet per second of flow coming through a rain event, billions of gallons. It's hard to control. Can't fight against nature, which is another reason you should put your river back to where it was. So,
Homeland Security, okay this?
who cares? Now, there's enough people here. We just said, let's go do it. Clean up the channel and get it done. Ask permission later. Closing? What's that?
And is there an estimated price for what you're proposing?
Not right now. I mean, I'm still working on, the, construction or the concrete, price, but as for the filter itself, we got some rough estimates and stuff like that. It all depends on how high to build it. So you can build it stages where it's, say, the first 4 feet or whatever, and then when more funding available, you can make it higher, so.
In the concrete channels where you got it.
Yeah.
You're right.
Oh, yeah.
You're absolutely.
Yeah. And move it over to Mexico, so that's no problem. I mean, you do modeling and, see if it works. I have some prototypes of the filter itself, where you can just run test on it all day, and see what it does, how it works, and, go from there.
You're the bright spot for tonight, you know that, you go tell your wife.
Yeah. So.
Our next public comment comes from Philip Musagas. Philip?
Okay, thanks. Thank you. My name is Philip Musagas. I'm the executive director of San Diego Coastkeeper. And I just have a few comments. I think you're giving 3 minutes per commenter, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So Coastkeeper, if some of you don't know, is a nonprofit environmental organization. Our mission is to protect and restore our coastal and inland waters. And so we've been involved on the Tijuana pollution issue for the past little over a year now. We weren't involved before, but we're heavily involved now. And so we appreciate the time to give public comment. We thank IBWC for giving this update. But frankly, we're appalled. I mean, this is outrageous that we have had this little progress for this amount of time, despite the large infusion of federal funding that we've seen, over $400 million over the past 3 years. We need to see more progress. And just to give you a sense of what we're doing, Coastkeeper filed a lawsuit in federal court in April of this year against IBWC and against Veolia for permit violations. Morgan talked about the NIPD's National Pollution Discharge Permit. That's a Clean Water Act permit that's administered by the San Diego Regional Water Control Board. We did research on the permit and the compliance, and IBWC has had over 600 violations of that permit over the past 5 years. Veolia is the operator of that facility, so Veolia is also named in our lawsuit. And this is not just sewage discharges or sewage violations. These are violations of permit effluent limits on toxic and hazardous chemicals like PCBs, DDT, pesticides, all kinds of other materials. Many of these chemicals have been banned in the US since the 1970s. And the way the treatment plant operates, even when it's operating properly, our understanding is those chemicals come into the plant. They're coming from wastewater in Mexico. They come into the plant. They are not treated. A typical wastewater treatment plant isn't designed to treat those kinds of chemicals. So much of that is passed through and discharged into the ocean, or if it's not coming to the plant, it's going downriver and going into the ocean. So we're seeing a huge ecological impact. We're seeing a huge public health impact. We have growing evidence that this river of sewage that unfortunately we're dealing with is being aerosolized. The bacteria and the contaminants in the sewage are being aerosolized and being breathed in by people in Pura Beach. So we need to see more progress. And I appreciate the efforts IBWC is doing. but it is not enough. It has to happen faster. So we need to see a more concerted effort. Thank you.
I had a request from, when we had a question much earlier, she has to leave. So this is Judy Collins had one question.
Yeah. The two preface statements are on 5 May 2022. The new DD-PCR test our ocean waters. IB has been closed down for over 800 days since those new tests. For all we know, the old tests would have shown the same thing if they had been of this quality that the new county tests are. When is the IBWC going to stop dumping sewage products in the ocean? Probably 3 days after you stop, we can swim again. Thank you.
Primary sources of the contamination of the beaches, transboundary flows from Tijuana River, the discharges from Mexico 6 miles south of the border. It's not the wastewater treatment plant.
But those are seasonal. And these tests show 365 days a year. Some or all of the beaches from IB to Coronado are closed. I didn't even catch on at the December meeting when I didn't even know that this plant was out of compliance. It's the only year-round pollution entry into the ocean. That's the source. It's not the 30 days a year of rain. It's not the temporary reverse of currents. It's not even all that big pile 6 miles south on the beach. It's the dumping location from the South Bay treatment plant.
But we do very robust monitoring of the discharge.
But I wrote a note to the county website and they say you use the old test on your outflow. Would you start using the DD-PCR test so we can get a clue?
What tests they're using, that or not.
Write the county. That's what they said. Anyhow, thank you very much for everything else, but I want to swim. And if this is going to take the next 3 to 5 years, I'll have to move out of Coronado if I want to swim in the ocean. Some friends already have. Thank you. And I don't mean to sound so intense, but I've been waiting for anybody to mention the 365 days.
Laura Wilkinson, Simpson, Laura Wilkinson. Is she online or she's not here? Eric Severson, you're online. You're muted, Eric. Can we unmute Eric? Eric, you are muted. And we don't know, is Frankie, you have unmuted?
It's on his end.
You think it's on your end, Eric? And we'll catch you later. Why don't you look on your end and see if you can unmute your microphone. So we have David live. Coming up next. Yeah, you need to use it before the recording.
Good evening. My name is David Lai, and I'm the president of Non-Toxic San Diego. We are a club run by high schoolers from across San Diego County, and our goal is to inform our communities about harmful substances in our environment. And this summer, we have been researching the Tijuana River pollution to create a documentary in order to shed light and raise awareness. Our club members here today are to demonstrate that the next generation cares about this issue and its impacts on future generations. Earlier this summer, we went down to the area surrounding the Tijuana River multiple times. We spoke with business owners, interviewed residents, politicians, officials, and we even toured the Tijuana River estuary. And our experience of smelling the sewage and witnessing the pain of residents has given us a newfound determination to speak up and act to solve this issue. In the March San Diego Citizen Forum meeting, there was a strong emphasis on fixing broken pumps and pump stations like JP1, pipeline breaks, and also pipeline 1A. Moreover, lots of focus on fixing the San Antonio de los Buenos plant, the South Bay International Wastewater Treatment Facility, and the International Collector. And we agree that the IBWC must continue to make this one of its priorities and carry on its amazing works on fixing, maintaining, and expanding the wastewater treatment facility to ensure that it can handle and treat all the wastewater that's going into it now and in the future. However, funding is crucial to solving any issue. Thus, the IBWC must make this its priority issue. For the Tijuana River problem, the IBWC needs capital to fix and maintain pumps, buy new and also spare pumps and pipes, conduct PCR testing and water quality monitoring, build other wastewater treatment facilities, and much more. But with limited budget, it can only do so much. In light of this, we ask that IBWC continues to ask Congress for more funding in order to maintain its steady progress toward eradicating this contamination. Furthermore, the IBWC must pressure the California state government and Governor Gavin Newsom specifically to declare the Tijuana River a state of emergency. This would help secure necessary and immediate funding. It would also bring about more awareness, more supports, and more attention. Federal funding is also crucial too. So the IBWC must petition Joe Biden and his cabinet members to declare the Tijuana River pollution an emergency to gain much needed federal support. As this issue is also binational, the IBWC must persist in meeting with its counterparts in Mexico, as well as high-ranking Mexican officials. Since Mexico not only has to fix and maintain its infrastructure, but also clean up the sediments in their parts of the river, these meetings are necessary to gain status updates, pressure Mexico to act quicker if needed, create agreements, cooperate on solutions, and understand Mexico's needs, while also preventing our political relations from being strained. Well, in the end, it was an honor to make a public comment at the IBWC San Diego Citizens Forum meeting, and our club admires all the work IBWC has done, not only on our side, but also on the Mexican side. Thank you.
Thank you so much, David, for your comments. Really appreciate your efforts. We do have the next person who has requested public comment is Ted Kimes. Ted. All right. Okay, and Brian Bilbray, is he in attendance? Or... You want to speak again, Brian?
Different issue.
All right, fair enough.
You know, I apologize for my frustration and hot-headed approach to some things, but I just realized the first meeting that I represented in Pearl Beach on this sewage issue was in 1976. And I just realized and notified that my 7-year-old granddaughter will never be able to surf on her own beach. And still before she's grown up. And I would ask, if you want to sue, don't play with the Clean Water Act anymore. It's gone beyond that. Learn from Flint, Michigan. This is a civil rights violation. It's, my grandchildren are third-generation sewage kids. We grew up with this, and we're not getting equal protection under the Constitution, not just the law. And my question is, does IBWC have any jurisdiction over potable water crossing the Mexican border? I would ask you, what will you be willing to do to solve the problem rather than just complain about it? First of all, I was at the meetings in Mexico City and helped negotiating the transfer of 488 billion gallons of Colorado water, an IBWC, the International Bank loan to ship water into this water basin. At that time, there was a locked commitment by Mexico that not one drop of that water would come back into San Diego County polluted. And there was commitments made for infrastructure that was to be built that weren't followed. The source of the sewage doesn't come from Mexico, ladies and gentlemen. We are shipping 98% of the problem south. We are overwhelming their infrastructure. The only time that sewage flow across the border outraised the population was in '87 when the water started become brought in from the United States. Now, are we brave enough to talk about this issue? If this was a corporation running a factory and was dealing with a problem like this, we would have no qualms about it. But are we willing to say to our friends on both sides of the border, the economic prosperity across the border is fabulous to see. We're the #1 trading partner. But this issue could destroy all the economic prosperity of the future if we're not brave enough to make some tough decisions. I'm just saying, if we're going to abide by our agreements with our partners down south, we've got to expect them to follow the same. So you want to see a lawsuit? Sue against water being shipped down and the water districts here in San Diego making money sending the water down and overdoing the infrastructure down in Mexico until the infrastructure is up to state to where it gets done. Thank you.
Next, we have Melody McClay. Melody McClay and Steve Coker. Steve.
I have one question for the board. After spending, I think the numbers are almost at 900 million at the moment, if you add everything up. Is anybody going to tell us if it's going to change the water quality on the coast?
Can I answer that? Sure. No, it won't, because the IBWC is doing the best they can. They're doing the only one that's clean water is the IBWC. But the fact is that if we go from them putting out 25 million gallons a day to the future plan that they would put out by permit 120 million gallons a day, it will never change because they are allowed under the Clean Water Act 5% solids. The DD-PCR test at this point, do the math, 25 million gallons with 5% solids. The fecal solids is where where the testing registers. So if we go to 120 or 480% more, then 5% solids is 6 million gallons of fecal sludge that goes into the ocean. We will never make it. And that's, I think, the math just tells you that we'll never make it.
So I just want to make a couple of comments in regard to a few of the public comments that have been made. One thing that is important to note, and this isn't against any of the advocacy, I love the advocacy and please keep it up. The comment about how much has been invested by the federal government and the money that was allotted in the USMCA, that $310 million. I just want to make sure that everybody knows the actual facts is that none of that money had been received from 2020 to the IBWC until 2024. It had been with the EPA, there had been studies, we had to go back to Congress and get enabling legislation. So in fact, not only that money, which is about $290 million now, as well as the recent increase in the maintenance budget is actually not spent. And when I go and advocate to Congress members, they have quite a few comments, one about you're advocating and you haven't spent the money that has already been allocated. And many people are under a misimpression that that money has already been spent. That money is going to be spent on the expansion of the plant. Do you have a question? Go ahead. Yeah, and I totally agree with your comment that we need to get it done sooner than later. I mean, if somebody argues against that, you know, it's crazy, right? But we have definitely reached a turning point in the sense that all the money that will be needed will come for that expansion of the plant. You know, we have some disagreements on what the effect of that will be, not completely, but I think it will certainly, we will have many, many more days open in our beaches. And frankly, you know, you can talk about the test, the lady left here who talked about the current test we're using, which is used in our county and nowhere else in the United States for some unknown reason by the EPA. But there were, for over 2 months, the city of Coronado paid for side-by-side tests through the same testers that do it for the county of the old test and the new test, right? And what should have exactly happened? So under the old test, if it wasn't sensitive enough, it should be here. And the new test should be here when there's more pollution. And they should kind of go up in step, or at least the new test should always go up, even if the old test stayed where it was. What happened was there was no correlation, and they were both all over the place the entire time. Bill LeBeige wrote an article about it, and we'll have to, fix it. I don't generally talk about it because I spend almost all my time advocating for more federal funding on the issue, but it is a complex and issue beyond, I think, some, just declarations. But you're right about the advocacy. There is just one last comment I wanted to make. I apologize, but it was a year ago, April, when a lot of this came to light, that the plant diverter gate was open, stuck open, the plant was being overwhelmed, there were daisy chain effects occurring with breakdowns, and it was pretty appalling to me. And my question to the IBWC chair was, one, nobody knows about this, and who's advocating for it? And the response was, well, IBWC is not an advocating agency. The IBWC is an agency that runs these things under the State Department. I said, well, okay, I get it, but you have to give us the information so that the people who can advocate, meaning, office holders and the public, can't do it. And I will say there has been a dramatic change from that time period, the 18 months, where the IBWC is having much, much more disclosure, as testified multiple times in Congress, and the citizens, as well as politicians, and whoever you want to say, across the board, Scott Peters and Mary Gire, she took a big lead on the fact that they had not disclosed that the maintenance budget was so ridiculous that they couldn't maintain what they had. I mean, that really wasn't well-known public knowledge. So that is changing, and I just encourage your advocacy. I just wanted you to know that part of the story.
We want to give Eric a chance to speak. Okay, let's let Eric speak if you're not muted anymore. Eric, go ahead. We still don't hear him. Your microphone is muted, Eric.
This gate you'll cut off that sign.
Oh, okay. Try again now, Eric. We don't see your muted microphone anymore. Oh, when you picked it up or moved it, it muted. Still muted. When you took it, let's see something happened. Sorry, okay. All right. Tom DeFreitas was on my list. Keep trying, Eric.
Yeah, I have some technical questions. Morgan, I talked to before the meeting. It's my understanding, and I'm looking at the wastewater system infrastructure down there in Mexico, but PBC is the only facility in Pump Station 1A that actually takes water from the wastewater from the Tijuana River. It's its own system, has its own pipeline directly down to San Antonio de los Pinos, correct?
Generally, yes.
So if that pump station or any of that goes down, we're at the mercy of that water, wastewater coming down the Tijuana River, correct?
If PBC goes down, we do not have a method of diverting flow from the Tijuana River into the system, correct?
That's right. So the international treatment plant, you could build that out to 500 million gallons, but it's not going to capture any water coming out of the Tijuana River if PBC pump station 1A, any of that along there breaks down. Is that correct?
That's correct. PBC has 4 pumps pumping to PB1, 3 pumps pumping to the international collector, so there is redundancy in that pump station.
But still, you have power failures. You could have the collector in the Tijuana River plug up.
That's correct.
And it has to go past, and the international treatment plant cannot do anything with that because its source, its 2 sources are the canyon collectors, which go to Hollister back to the pump station, the treatment plant, and it takes its source from the international collector. So it's isolated from taking any water that wastewater that comes down the Tijuana River. And I think you told me that the PVC capacity is about 50 million gallons a day. But even if it went over that, we would still get polluted water coming down to the beaches, the Tijuana. And so I don't understand why we don't have a backup collector in the Tijuana River on our side of the line that then sends the water directly to the treatment plant. That way, if their plant fails, we are the backup to pick up that water and effectively stop it from coming down the river.
I agree with you. If PVC were to go down, lose power, we would not be able to divert flows from the river. And there is the built-in pump redundancy there. There is discussion right now about a river diversion project where the flow from the river is captured and sent to our treatment plant or another treatment plant. So there is, that concept is on the table.
I mean, that's something I think should be right at the top of the list for priority, because the top issue is wastewater coming down the Tijuana River. And the rest of it's pumped 10 kilometers south, but by the time that goes out into the ocean, we do have some filtration before it gets to our beaches. It's the direct dumping right on the beach of Tijuana River. And we have no backup to that PVC system. And I think it would take that much money to build a collector on our side that's the backup to their collector. I mean, I'm retired security. Because we always have redundancies, no redundancies.
That is the river diversion concept or project, so that there is being considered.
I want to say one thing about San Antonio de los Buenos. They're rehabbing a plant that's 30 years old. It was designed originally at 18 million gallons a day. So, okay, a third of the 55 million coming down, 18 is going to be diverted, cleaned up, but it's going to mix right back in with the other 40 that's in the gravity flow. It's going to be a third cleaner. It's still raw sewage, most of it going into the ocean right there. They really should be building a 55 million gallon wastewater treatment plant because they're 30 years behind.
Well, the idea of 18 million gallons per day was also in consideration that our plant would be expanded to 50 million gallons a day or 60. So
that's years away.
So just a side note, Mr. Bill Ray was talking about water we deliver to Mexico. And of course, that's by a treaty from 1944, 1.5 million acre feet per year, and it goes to the Mexicali area. And then there's an aqueduct from Mexicali area to Tijuana. The happy news is that's the limit on that is about 100 million gallons per day. That's all the water Tijuana has. And so we're never going to get to 120 million on dry days because that's all the water they're going to have.
The pipes, there's a pipe at Old Time Basin.
That's fairly small amount of water they can deliver there. And yeah, but that's by treaty and not something you can change right away. So those are all of our public comment, people who signed up. We can take, can I take a couple more? Anybody else have a public comment? One more, but that's from Philip.
I just have just a factual question that I don't know the answer to. So I guess for Morgan, so if assuming eventually the South Bay plant gets up to 50 million gallons base capacity and 75 million gallons peak, and the San Antonio de los Buenos plant is 18 million gallons, will that complete volume of treatment treat all the sewage in Tijuana? I'm sorry, I don't know the answer. So what percentage will that treat?
Estimate that if plant is at 50 and SAB at 18, that'll reduce our transboundary flow by 90%.
So the majority of it, but not 100%. Okay, thank you.
Right, we're still not quite through with our agenda. So we had a chance for board discussion of any item that you might want to mention. We, three of us had a walking tour of Smuggler's Gulch a couple weeks ago, and also we had board members go to San Antonio de los Buenos, but I think all that's been covered here today. I know a lot of folks think that Ms. Collins, who just left, said, along with Leon, believes that South Bay ocean outfall is polluting us and not sources from SAB or for the river itself. So we're hoping to have that report on the next meeting's agenda. The receiving waters reports through the city of San Diego for many years have shown that the South Bay ocean outfall does not pollute the shoreline. But of course, we've had some extremely wet weather. And so maybe things have changed. We look forward to getting a report at the next meeting. Well, that's still pending. And any other board member have suggestions for upcoming meeting items?
Just on that very point, the report that we hear at the next meeting should also address the assumption that at various levels of secondary treatment, suspended solids and other remaining solids, etc., will exceed the levels that we're testing for now on the beaches, assuming a certain amount of dilution, etc., from the South Bay ocean outfall. I think that is an assertion that really needs to be validated, challenged, demonstrated in terms of the actual estimates. These are mathematical calculations combined with dilution estimates that we really should know about.
Yeah, I went back and kind of did some research on the SAB San Antonio Banderas plant, and this is published in 1988, and it's in the Reader, and it pretty much shows that when that plant was built in 1985 at a cost of about $30 million, it was shut down basically for repairs in 1988, and then in 1990, just 2 years later, that plant ceased to operate according to the San Diego Union, and the reporter's name was Mr. Fikes, Bradley Fikes, and he was a long-term, reporter. So San Antonio de los Buenos, it only worked for 5 years. And after that point, it just passed through. And so, Ed, what you said about maintenance and about, we have these expectations of Mexico, but the reality is name projects that they've carried through and finished and actually maintained. And so I think that you're exactly right. We really have to be cognizant that, how long will this surge of $144 million last? And then what is the maintenance that's going to maintain these efficiencies? And so that's what I'm coming.
What is our leverage to ensure that we can stay trade in real time?
Well, you can always ask the U.S. consulate Tom Rion, who's working on it. That's part of the minute order. I mean, I think your concerns are 100% accurate. It's just I don't think it's totally helpful to just say, oh, it's impossible, we'll never do it, we can't do it. I mean, that's what I'm working on. That's what they're working on. That's what the 50 people at the plant last 3 weeks ago working on. I mean, your point is absolutely right. It's all of our same concern. I mean, that is the concern that's trying to be solved, and there is no guarantee. You're right. You're both right. There's no guarantee that they won't build it in 5 years from now. It'll be down, but we're trying to do everything we can to make sure that happens.
There's a way to monitor it real time.
I'm sorry.
There's a way to monitor it real time. The electric utilities have done it for years. It's real time skating.
Right. And they're also going down there every single month and looking at it, meeting with them and seeing all the reports is another way and holding them to account. There's a lot of ways, to hold them to account. The really the question is who has the political will to do that in the federal government? That's the real question. Who has the will to do it in any of the multiple ways to get it done?
Any more comments from the board? Okay. Mary Nelson Powell.
I have a couple of questions. Who should we talk to in the county about the main channel? Because a lot of the flooding, first of all, was from Smuggler's Gulch in 2023. And then it was from Smuggler's Gulch again in January of 2023. Then on February 6th, when the berm broke to the west and destroyed your campground or damaged it, that's a different issue. But on January 22nd, the river also flooded from the main channel, maybe because the pilot channel was backing up, but also the berms that are across the street from your ranger station on Monument Road, the one that's up on the hill. Those berms are failing because the sediment and the arunda behind it is so tall and nobody's monitoring it. And it's gonna continue to happen. Okay, thanks.
And I think we've gone through our entire agenda. So I think we can. Thanks to everyone for coming and all of your interest and write letters, stay active, keep advocating. We're all for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit better. I think so, yeah.